Hi, I'm Laura, and welcome to a special edition of KOD,
Mhm.
Knights of the Dragon. And I have my good buddy Drew and Regan, and I thought that we would go over some things regarding martial arts and just why it's important. And we're just going to go through some styles of it and why it's important in life. And um, yeah, so Drew, you want to start us off and let us know where you got started in your martial arts, and then Rikin can come in and tell us about his experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for introducing me. We really appreciate it. You did a great job there, Laura. Uh, we're gonna have you do it again. It's good. It's
Oh
good.
yeah.
I love it.
Oh yeah.
We love it. Regan? Yeah?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we're
Want
in.
me? You want me to? You passing it off? Okay. Um. Yeah. Before we let Drew cook, I got a video on deck. Like Laura said, we're gonna get into some styles. Today's episode is a special edition of KOD because Laura is coming into her own with curiosity of martial arts, hanging out with OG, talking more and more with Drew and his background. We're surrounded by masters in their own right. So today we wanted to get together and talk about the importance of martial arts, not only in life, but the principles that it instills, the righteousness that it portrays for the most part, and how important it is that Power Rangers reinstills martial arts back in the brand and legitimizes how important it is for kids to look to this stuff to save them mentally, to help them physically, spiritually, reset them culturally. So it's important. So, Drew, if you want to bring up the video, I want to pass it off in style. I want to play this clip. We got about, I just Googled real quick, just some 10 quick deadliest martial arts styles. So Drew can kind of get into it a little bit. And there's so much to choose from. There's so much going on in the world when it comes to fighting. Where do you start? Where do you begin? Where do you find out the best style for you to utilize in your daily lifestyle, or the type of protection you may need is rooted in a certain type of style. You can put them all together. You can That's where mixed martial arts comes from. A lot of people grab a whole bunch of stuff from a whole bunch of places and they make their own flavors. So let's get into this video, Drew. These are just the first top 10 we could come up with, and then we'll let Drew give us some input. Let's check it out. So Kung Fu up first, Drew. Taekwondo. Let's
Kung
go through them all first, and then we'll go down the list.
Sure.
Right? We got karate. I think there's only 10, but so right, and then you can dissect them one by one. Right? Jiu-jitsu, kendo. I'm surprised that made the list. Love Krav Maga. Capoeira is so unorthodox, right? So if you
Well, we'll get into
want,
that.
let's start with
You
Kung
let me know
Fu.
where you want
Bring
me to
it back.
start. Okay. You
Yeah,
pause
let's
it?
start with Kung Fu.
Yeah, let's pause it and let's
Yeah,
Okay,
start.
so
we'll go down the list.
Wing Chun was where I spent time. Wing Chun Kung Fu. Um, I spent a lot of time because my base was sitting between that and Jeet Kune Do and Muay Thai as far as the ones I enjoyed the most and the ones I really spent time developing,
Mhm.
that I gave the most time to. And Kung Fu in general is interesting because it really is about a journey, and a journey of, for me, it was understanding the beauty of the martial arts and flow. There was a lot of flow. There was a lot of flow in Kung Fu. It really allowed you to be fluent in your style and to be loose, because like when you do like something like Shotokan, which is a Japanese art, which is where karate really got based off of a lot of Shotokan, you
Right.
know, or different levels of karate, but Shotokan is probably the most known. Um, it's a hard style, so like when you punch, it's very hard. There's not a lot of flow to it. It's very strong. It's just strong, and it can be kind of stiff.
Right.
It's not as fluent, but with kung fu, like it's very fluent. Like, okay, as an example, in Shotokan, traditional punch, you're here, it's very hard, very hard style. You can bring it back, very hard style, right?
Right.
But with Kung Fu was like this. When you start with the base, the main thing I always teach people, which I'm trying to show my son right now, is, and I showed this to Rican, is the main thing you want to do to build your flow that I learned was go like this. Just like that. Just simple, just like that. And then when you refine it more, you can move like this.
Right.
And then you can move like that. Okay.
Kind of like the jacket move, right? With Karate Kid, when he makes him put the jacket on and off the thing.
Very similar to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to keep it right here, and it builds, your speed from here to here to here to here to here to here to here.
Muscle memory, right?
Right. And that's how you really build that up. And so it allowed me to flow. So like just putting your hand out here, let's say this is a hard style. Here's a hand, right? With Kung Fu, it allowed me to go. It allowed me to move.
More free flowing, like you're saying. Right.
Right. And move your elbows and your arms. And it was all a flow style. Right. See?
Control that center line, which is kind of what I'm familiar with. When I learned my first Jeet Kune Do basics, I took for 2 years. That was that move right there. That what you're showing, that is the basic center line. Guard your center line. That's the basis and basics of it.
You start getting into tree sao and bung sao, you start getting in and becoming more familiar with that and what they mean and the movements. Tree sao is kind of like the base when you're working on the wooden practice dummy. You start with the tree sao, movements, and you start getting used to that. But it's cool because once like it's kind of like with me with Kung Fu, you and even with Jeet Kune Do, like when I see something, I could see like something like a tree branch like sticking out here and a tree branch sticking out there, and automatically all I want to do is go, and move into it, and automatically when I see it, because I'm so used to moving in. And when you see the practice dummy, it's a lot of moving in and going back around.
The wooden dummies, right? The practice Wing Chun dummies.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I was always, every time I see it, I always want to do it. And sometimes I just sit in the chair and I'll be reading something and my hands will automatically move in those motions, move this way or back here to here sometimes, because I really enjoyed Wing Chun Kung Fu a lot. I really, really do. I thought it was really neat. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And, it's a lot of fast movement, but it was a lot of flow and technical. And I adapted to the movements a lot better. My natural stances, everything, I didn't have to think as much. In some martial arts, I felt like I had to think like a lot, but with Kung Fu, it just came naturally to me. So I have always had a very special relationship about Kung Fu. But you can go to the next one. I'll be here all day talking about that.
Drew, with every style, I want you to give me a core principle, right?
Sure.
Of the style in itself. Sum it up to a core principle, a core rule, a core law for each style, and how efficient it would be in a street fight.
Oh boy. Okay.
You can almost rank them, like give it a rating of efficiency in a street fight to protect you. Realistically, this is not the style you would want to choose if you could, to protect yourself. So I want you to give me a ranking and a principle that basically each style stands for. So
Yeah, so
Okay.
let's start with Kung Fu. Like
Kung
what?
yeah,
Fu.
so where would you
I
put
would
kung,
Real
always
kung
quick.
fu?
okay. I would always give Kung Fu a top level for me because it's where I really learned like Jeet Kune Do. One of the base principles is Kung Fu, so I would always put that at a top level for me, because I like flowing and I like moving. Now there are some stances, some wide stances, and different stances that people use that I would not use. So my kung fu would look different. It would have a lot of JKD, Jeet Kune Do in there, and it would have a lot of Muay Thai in there, and a few
Mhm.
Krav Maga techniques in there. And I would be
Yeah,
flowing with
see,
stuff
now you're
like
talking my language.
so it would be a lot different,
Yeah,
than what just it by itself. But I would definitely have it in there as a top ranking art for sure.
yeah,
Cool.
definitely.
What's number two?
Yeah,
Number
let's
two.
move
The,
on.
the, the
So
next one.
where would you rank kung fu on a 1 to 10 out of the top 10 lists? Where would you put it? Number two, number three, number four?
A
Because
10's the highest, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
10's the
10,
Okay,
that
highest,
so
would
10's
be,
the
10's,
lowest.
10's the highest. I would give it a 10 just because I'm
Cool.
biased to Kung Fu.
or
I
What's the
number
would,
one. So you would keep it at number one. Let's keep it at number one for you.
yeah, it would be
Let's
top level
do
for me.
that. So kung fu's on the
so
top of
what's
Drew's
the
list.
next
All
one?
right, let's move on. The next one is taekwondo. Yup, taekwondo.
Okay,
This is a
so
lot of kicks, a lot of
yes,
flashy moves,
yeah, a lot of
right? So let's
areas.
Yeah.
stop at taekwondo, Drewski. Where are you at
Okay,
with
so
taekwondo?
Taekwondo, I do have a history with Taekwondo. I
Hmm.
think that traditional Korean Taekwondo is really really good. Bruce Lee actually
Hmm.
learned a lot of kicking patterns from who was he working with? It was uh it'll come to me, but he was working with Master Jun Ree, and so
Okay.
Jun Ree was one of the top Taekwondo practitioners of the traditional style of Tang Sudo, which becomes Taekwondo. Okay,
Hmm.
or Taekwondo, depending on what pronunciation you're used to hearing, or Taekwondo, if you're in America. So it just depends. Kicking power, very strong. I've seen a lot of powerful kickers. The problem that I've always had with Taekwondo is that some of the stances were wide. When your stances are really, really wide, that presents a problem
Hmm.
because when you're wide, you kind of leave yourself open,
Right.
and it kind of takes up too much space sometimes. So
Right.
whenever you're in something like that, you have to be adaptable and you have to be used to working in small or big areas.
Right.
So a lot of their kicks come from wider stances and wider base. A lot of them aren't as close, as you need. They're good, but you
Yeah.
need to adjust them to where they come in where you're doing stuff closer range, you
Well,
know.
can I make a point? I've always felt like after kicking in taekwondo, certain kicks and certain moves, if they were above my skill set, or a lot of flashy stuff you see with taekwondo, I always felt
Mhm.
exposed after I did a taekwondo kick. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Just for that split second, or that, if you don't land that kick, I always felt like you had that moment that you could catch one.
You didn't have any
And so
backup. Yeah,
kicking,
and somebody was going to
yeah,
tag you.
kicking
Yeah.
was never my strong suit as a fighter. I always played defense. Defense wins championships to me. So if you can't get through, there's no fight, and it's the art of fighting without fighting that always stuck with me. So you want to get in, get out in the fight before it even excels to a point where you could possibly get hurt. So my
You're
style
correct.
has always been, instead of kicking, it's like you add the kickboxing. I'd rather do some Muay Thai, like you were saying, some Krav Maga, complement Taekwondo is not one of the styles that complements a lot of my main style because I'm not a kicker. Let me just say that. So I was never really drawn to Taekwondo, but continue. I always
Yeah,
feel like I left you open, you know? So,
it does. And see, I'm a kicker. You know, I'm a big time kicker. So I would use a lot of kicks, especially when I was younger. I used a lot.
right.
As being older, I still say kicking is my strong suit. But I've learned to incorporate, you know, my hands better. Elbows were always a strong suit for me.
Oh,
They've
yeah.
been better. Elbows, I'm a big fan of elbows. Huge fan of elbows. But yeah,
Mhm.
kicking was always my strong suit. But with Taekwondo, I enjoyed, you know, like when you watch your bet, you like Best of the Best, right? So
Mhm.
Philip and Simon Ree, they come from Taekwondo and Hapkido. You know, that's their main base style. Now they learned from traditional Taekwondo from Korea because they are Korean
Mhm.
and they're very good. Now, if you train with those guys, I would say Taekwondo goes up a lot of levels. Like if you
Well,
train with them.
Taekwondo is very flashy for the movies, a lot of flying kickers and very high kicking moves. A lot of the kicking you see, the martial artists are usually high level Taekwondo experts. When they got
Mhm.
feats like that, usually Taekwondo's in there somewhere. So
Yeah.
that I will know and
Philip and
notice.
Simon are the best at doing that. I would say outside of them, there might have been a few other people that would be like, yeah, but on a smaller base, like I've seen like just let's say like basic American Taekwondo people. I've seen them. Ernie Reyes had a show. I forgot what it was called on MTV,
Mhm.
and he had like a lot of Taekwondo people on there. And they weren't like Ernie. Ernie's a Taekwondo guy. His father is. Um, but you could see that they work with a different style.
Right.
You know, like the way they do it is completely different than some of the people they had on the show that were used to just doing Taekwondo a certain way. They weren't as good. The ones that brought a little something different to the table were the better competitors in the show. The ones that were just
Oh,
used to like, I'm used to a traditional form of Taekwondo. You know,
right.
it's not based from Korea. Um, it's based more in America, and it was more of a basic, like a simplified version of it. That's what I'm
Right.
really trying to say. A simplified version of it, they didn't do as well. You know, the guys that were not a simplified version, they were kind of destroying everybody on the show. So there was
Well,
a
we're gonna
difference.
use this thumbnail just for you, Drew. We found your boy. We were talking about Ernie. I screenshotted this today just
Oh,
for you.
okay.
Roy's
Thanks, buddy.
Pizza.
Oh yeah, that's my guy.
There's your boy. So there's the thumbnail.
I
We're gonna
love
go.
Ernie Reyes. I
So
love
We're
what's
him.
gonna throw
number
Ernie
three?
some love.
Oh, so where are
You
you
know?
ranking this, Drew? Where?
Uh if it's coming from Korea and it's blended with a different, not watered down edition of it, as they call it, the McDojo,
Yeah.
I would say I would put it on a scale of 1 to 10. I would give it I don't know, about like a 8.5.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I
What's
would
the
do it.
next one?
All right. Cool. So yeah,
What's
Taekwondo is more flashy than anything for me.
Yeah, what's the next one?
All right.
Judo.
Oh,
Judo.
dude.
This is throws,
Judo.
grapples.
Judo.
Yeah, this is a
Judo.
style
What do you
I
know
didn't get
about
to
judo?
spend any.
Judo? No.
I know about judo, but I never spent any time with it. OG is actually a specialist in
Yeah.
judo.
Oh, okay.
Um, it's a
Right.
very good art. It's a lot of tossing and throwing. It can have grappling to it. A lot of hip
Mhm.
tossing. Um, it's a really good style for that.
Once you
Um,
get in, yeah.
a lot of people do it. Ronda Rousey, that's one of her bases. is doing judo. Learned from Judo Gene LaBelle, the legend himself, who was a stuntman in Hollywood and a high level judo expert, and he was a bear of a man and could definitely grapple you down. You know, he was very good at that, and that's why Ronda was the champion that she was, because she learned from Judo Gene LaBelle, and Judo Gene LaBelle did stunt work on the Green Hornet with Bruce Lee at one time. So I would put judo in a really high spot, because if you have, let me put it to you, if you have judo, jiu-jitsu, and you have wrestling,
I was just gonna ask, what's the difference between the big three? Though they're very similar. Like
there's a lot of
jiu-jitsu and
similarity
judo.
between them. I think that judo's more, I would say judo, in my opinion, is more like wrestling. Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you could be more fluent. You know, the holds and stuff are a little bit more fluent. Like you use a lot of your legs in different ways. You use your legs and stuff in all the arts except for maybe wrestling as much, right? But the way that they're approached are completely different. They share some similarities, but the grappling can be, it's different in some ways, and it shares the same base. You know, I was never a big grappler, so don't take my opinion, because I'm not big into grappling as much. You know, if my buddy Chris, who is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he's a grappler. You know, that's like what he
I'm not
does.
a
Like OG
grappler
was a grappler and a wrestler and a judo guy, you know, and trained with the Gracies and jiu-jitsu, which are considered to be the best in all the land, right? The Gracies and the Machados are considered to be the best when it came to Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And those guys, like between Chris and OG, like those guys are like grapplers. You know, I can do some grappling moves if I need to a point, but to have an array and to look like Hicks and Gracie and, you know, wrap up people and be like, oh yes, Lord, and do what he does, like, no. So I am not the expert when it comes to that. I know about it enough to recognize and see and to know some of the things about it, but I didn't spend a lot of time grappling. You know, I spent some time wrestling, traditional wrestling, for a time, to learn the basis of a couple things and understand some things about it. But that was about it. You know, I can, you know, do a rear naked choke. I can arm bar you. I can guillotine choke you. You know, like I can do stuff like that. But as far as being like an expert and really being able to spend some time and break down and have some stories for you, not as much. I did do some grappling, and mainly it was more wrestling with jiu-jitsu, and that's how I dislocated this arm right here. Was I was in an arm bar, and I didn't tap and quit, and dude friggin' yanked on my arm a little bit too much, so it caused a problem. So that's my history with it. I did a little bit of it, and I wasn't very good at it, you know, against a high level guy for sure. Like,
so if you had to rank it, what would the ranking be?
judo, I would give judo a 10, because there's a lot. Yeah, there's
Well,
a lot.
yeah, if somebody gets a hold of you, like OG was saying last episode, them wrestlers, them grapplers, man, they get you, they slam you on the ground. They can really take you out the fight before you can even get a chance to really defend yourself once they get a hold of you.
You really have to, like, when you're dealing with somebody that's grappling, you really have to like space yourself.
I call it the fly trap, Drew. My experience, I've been in a lot of street fights. I would say if you had to sum me up to 3, it would definitely be some Jeet Kune Do, Wing Chun, street, you know, like a street fighting / kickboxing style. Grappling is really not in there for me, you know, and just basic karate and basic boxing and stuff like that. So it's really unorthodox, rooted in Wing Chun. Like I said, playing defense, but I call it the Venus flytrap because I had a homie go for my legs one time, and I reacted so instantly what you have to do is, let's say someone comes for your thighs, right? And they go to
Yeah.
do the football tackle for the thighs.
Oh
You
yeah.
have to almost take your body and drop it parallel as he's coming in, right? These are your legs right here. As he's coming in to grab your legs, your whole body, you should be walking yourself back. And as he's coming in, you're almost getting parallel to the ground and pushing him down as he's trying to grab you. So it's a timing thing. It's tricky. Blocking a
It is
grapple is
tricky.
very difficult.
It's very tricky. Like when
Very
people ask me
difficult.
about that, and I was like, because I got
But if
lucky,
you
you
come
know.
down at the right time with an elbow and are able to keep your legs as he's coming for you, and really get that shift and get him down and use your whole body weight to land on him, you can pin him to the floor and pretty much get a couple digs in and get out of there, or get that headlock, or you know what I'm saying, do some kind of reverse grapple of your own. So when you have a grappler, you really have to be on your toes. You cannot let them get a
Yeah.
hold of you, and you cannot let them do anything that they want to do as soon as they get their hands on you. So judo is very dangerous. And for Puerto Ricans, we know Puerto Rican judo. You don't know if I got a knife. You don't know if
Oh
I got a
God.
gun.
No,
You know, you don't know what I'm gonna do.
I always use like the Jackie
Oh,
Chan method when it comes to like to people like that. You know, I try to move out of the way
yeah,
and let them try to run at me and hitting the wall, you know, try to get there.
yeah.
But as they get phased from the wall,
The
like
bull and
guys, I'm
matador thing.
speaking like it's very tricky. So that's why I say I use the Jackie Chan method, which is just like, hey, whatever I can get to, whatever I can go, because those guys are straight up gorillas. Okay. Like they
Yeah,
really
because
are.
if you don't pin him like a fly trap to the floor, he's got you down, and then you're in a whole bunch of other mess.
There's a
You
reason
know,
why Kurt
you don't
Angle
want
is as bad as he is, because he is that good. He is that good because he knows how to use that wrestling.
So
karate,
karate.
Okay. Shotokan.
regular OG karate, man. The
Yeah.
OG. I would consider this the OG of the group. You know, the most common, the most McDojo'd. You know, where you at with
It
karate,
has a
traditional
troubled
karate,
past.
which we know
That
Jason
is
was a fan
true.
of.
It does have a
Yeah,
troubled past. You know, a lot of people took karate and like it has a very, I call it a mixed bag, because I could think of guys right now that are legends in the karate field, and they talked about when people were competing like in an almost like kickboxing style, like it went from like the 60s 70s and leaning like into the 80s, and people were talking about like Master Cecil Peoples was talking about he like entered in like the kickboxing style, and they were like, you know, wearing gloves and really kind of doing things and punching like more with a boxing style,
right.
and people were just getting murdered, you know, and they were getting hit, and they were like, dang, that really hurts, like, and people were really coming with like a different type of thing. So karate's interesting, you know, it's really interesting. I think that for it to really do what it needs to do, you really need to study a lot of boxing and Muay Thai and kickboxing in general.
Yeah.
You know, I think it really needs to kind of change up, you know, and if you're dealing with point system, you know, it's a whole nother thing. It's like, you know, one good hit, you know, you get a point, you stand back. You know, if you're basing your whole martial art career off point system, you're going to get murdered. You know, like you have to understand, like there is no point system when you're fighting a high level competitor where those rules don't exist, or you're on the street and those rules
Well,
don't
that's
exist.
why I'm such a fan of Krav Maga and Muay Thai, because it's so ruthless when it comes
It
to
is some
street
ruthless
fighting.
stuff, but
You know what I
it's
mean?
brutal. If you want to get into a brutal karate style, Kyokushin. Kyokushin, that's what Dolph Lundgren did and was world champion. Michael Jai White does Kyokushin. Kyokushin is a brutal form of traditional karate. And you can stop each other in the privates. Like it's a very hard edged, very like that's a style that I said it's a hard form, but it's very strong, and the kicks are strong and the hits are strong and they show no mercy. It is like literally like Cobra Kai on steroids, you know.
Right.
You watch some old Kyokushin fights, some new Kyokushin fights of people that are really, really conditioned to do it. It is a very brutal. I remember Michael Jai was talking about to get his next level, he had to fight like what was it, 15? Was it 10 to 15 fighters? I believe is in one day.
Wow.
And
like Ip Man with the bags of rice in the movie.
Yeah, he had to, and there was no break. Like it was just like you had to, and some of the guys you might fight are top level and some of them aren't. So like if you fight a top level guy that matches you, you got to have the energy to fight that guy, stop him, and then you got to fight, you know, another 14 guys, you know, just to be considered at that level. So if you deal with a guy that has that ranking and is past that level of training, that's going to be a hard dude to fight. Because he's going to come at you. Kyokushin is no mercy. It is no mercy time.
So where do you give karate a defense rating and rank it in style?
I got to break it down. If you learn Kyokushin, it is a top level 10 for me. If you do a McDojo, it is a number 2 for me. If you do an Okinawan style that is rooted in some good base and foundation that kind of changes things up, I'd give it about a 9 or a 10.
So as long as you're not doing McDonald's karate,
no, that stuff will get you killed. Basically. I've seen people get killed. It's not pretty.
Yeah,
it's not pretty.
What's the next one?
Aikido. Probably the most wild out of all of them.
Okay, so here's
Go
what
ahead,
I have
Laura. You got a question about karate?
No, I was gonna say, do you? How much do you know about Aikido?
I did train in some Aikido
go ahead,
briefly. I did briefly. Very
I
briefly.
Think Steven Seagal, as soon as you say.
Right. Aikido. Yeah, Steven Seagal is known for Aikido. So Aikido, here's what I have to say. It is based on a lot of sword play. So when samurais did fight, it's a lot of disarming, using techniques to disarm. In combat when you lose, a weapon, and that's true. But Aikido, there's also a lot of throws, pressure techniques that you can use, that people use, and body manipulation. And I think that is good to a lot of levels, but in order for it to work, you need to put a couple other arts in there with it. If you use it by yourself, and you fight like a Thai box, you fight like a Thai boxer. If that Thai boxer, if he gets his legs on you or that elbow on you, it's gonna be a done deal. Like if he gets you, it's a done deal. That's the thing about it. Like they have a lot of, the kick, like in Aikido is interesting. I will say that, like they do quick kicks that build power just off of coming out of nothing. That's what's interesting about their kicks. Is like they do a kick and it just boom, boom, boom. Yeah. They don't really step back. They don't really get close. They can stand where they are and just drop a kick, and they kick low. So their idea is they kick low to bring you down to their level. And that's what I found fascinating about it. And the body manipulation thing, which goes into flow, into Kung Fu, like if with that flow, Aikido has a little bit of that flow to a point. And so I think the low kicks in the flow is really interesting, and how they flow people. But a lot of it is done through being an uke, which is a demonstration. So like when you see Steven Seagal, he does a lot of demonstrations where he's like stacking people and people are coming at him. So a lot, when you start getting into that part of it, that's where it gets a little kind of ridiculous, because it's like, okay, I'm demonstrating. So guy, you're going to come at me right here and I'm going to go like this, right? Or I'm going to go like this and I'm going to say and move you like this, right? And they're going to allow you to turn and flip them in a certain way. Now, Steven Seagal, his problem was he would really slam people really hard, and they were thinking, okay, we're working, I'm his uke, and I'm going to go, and I know that he's going to flip me this way, so it's going to be okay. Seagal would surprise people sometimes, and he would really slam them, you know, and that's where people started to get hurt, and that's why a lot of people didn't like Seagal in a lot of ways, because he slammed people pretty hard. He was known for doing that. I heard he's gotten better. No disrespect, Master Seagal, okay? But you were known for slamming some people, and they were just being honest. You know, like it was like when he did movies, like as an example, he was coming at people like full-fledged hard, you know, instead of like, okay, you're supposed to give this much power, not this much power. You know,
yeah,
because
he can
these
really
guys are
hurt some
trusting
people.
you. Yeah, they're trusting you not to defend themselves and to go with you, like professional wrestling, to go with you. You know, they're not expecting you to come in and just clock them. You know, they're not expecting that. So they're trusting you, and they know they're working on a movie. And here you come, and they're going, okay, he's doing his thing. And boom, what the heck? And then clack. That was the thing about it. So, and Aikido, I think Aikido is a good style people should definitely learn. But if you're learning about life, nature, growth, body manipulation in that respect, it will teach you a lot about that. Okay, that's true. If you're looking to go down a dark alley and fight some people, you're going to need Aikido and a bunch of other things to go with it. Because if you take Aikido by yourself, it's not going to go well for you.
It's almost like having a burger without the patty. It's just the lettuce, the tomato, the mayonnaise.
It is. You need to add things to it.
You need that meat. You need that beef patty for it to be a burger.
So what's your rating, Drew? What's your rating?
Okay. I got to be careful with this one.
I'm going to call it the buy one, get one free style. You need to have something else with it for it to be efficient. You really do.
I would say a 7.
Okay.
I would say a 7.
Okay.
It's more defensive strategy and using momentum as someone comes at you, using their own momentum.
Yeah, it's a lot of body manipulation, momentum and stuff. And yeah, it's like if you've got a high level like MMA guy, like that really knows how to bring the pain, like he's gonna come at you, and your body manipulation may not get to him by the time he gets to you. You know, and that's the thing. And I've seen that happen where like Aikido guys are like standing there, they're trying to measure and look at people, and by that time, the MMA guy is already slapping them upside the head and just pushing them up against the wall, and it's not good. You know, I've seen that. You know.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah,
what else we got? Now the mighty Muay Thai, Drew.
Oh boy.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, Muay Thai.
The elbows, the knees, right?
Yeah. Muay Thai
is this is a big one. This is a big one. The hardest, sharpest really point for the body.
It is some good stuff, and it's a lot of strength and power that comes out of your elbows.
Super efficient.
Yeah, it is very good.
Oh yeah.
You know, I did Muay Thai, and it is a brutal art. You could see beauty in all martial arts, and I would say, yeah, there's beauty in it to it as well. But let's just be honest. It is a brutal art. You're talking about like the high level guys that do it. Like you're talking about, they're like snapping bamboo and, you know, really going to town with some strong legs. Jason David Frank studied with Master Toddy in Thailand and was a high level fighter underneath him, because Jason really learned how to develop the Thai style and kicked super
Tammy
hard.
too.
Master Toddy, Tammy did too. Yeah. And she did fights. She came out and did like fights, and she fought like
I did. I saw that
good
video
women
on Mighty
champions,
Morphin
like
Life.
she held her own pretty well. JDF, did his thing and did extremely, 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 extremely well. Master Toddy even complimented, and you're dealing with Master Toddy, who's known for, seeing guys kick really hard and do what they do. But he's like, Jason, you kick real, real hard, and that was the thing about it, was that Thai fighting really builds like strength. It's really, really strong, and it's built on really deep kicks. Like when you get hit with those kicks, it's just not like, oh, here's a kick. It's like that kick pushes into your body, bends your body all the way through, knocks the soul out of you and the wind out of you.
Yeah.
And when you get hit with one of those things, you do not want to get hit again. Thai fighting, when you get hit by those kicks, they're devastating.
I mean, shout to the Protector movies. If you really want to watch,
Tony Zhao. Oh
yeah, Tony Jaa is one of the illest Muay Thai fighters. It's one of the most efficient styles to me. I mean, the blocking, your elbows are already where they need to be. You know what I'm saying? So the Muay Thai, the way they train with all of that, everything is in the center. So it's so easy to train yourself with muscle memory to get good with your elbows. If your mind automatically, you could block and then be here in a matter of a half a second. So it's throwing them with conviction and having your mind that quick trigger. That's what makes it so dangerous to me. Guys who really know what they're doing with Muay Thai, I mean, the elbow is the sharpest point. It's concentrated to that. I mean, you're breaking stuff. Your knees are one of the hardest bones in your body. So Muay Thai is like, man, you mix it with some kickboxing, forget about it. That's like, if you're going to do 3 or 4 styles to put together, Muay Thai and kickboxing go together like peanut butter and jelly for me.
Are you talking about American kickboxing?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that if you blended those two together, Muay Thai is
have them complement each other, a little bit. So,
but that Muay Thai, those Thai kicks, man, whoo. Because I've sparred with people that kickboxed, and it was like, okay, but Muay Thai guys, oh my gosh, like and the Thai style that I when I started learning some Thai, I remember I was working with somebody and they were a keto guy, and they saw me jump back, and I immediately went into a Thai stance, and I was coming with them the kick, and they're like, whoa, they're like, whoa, you know some Thai, and I was like, yeah, a little bit, and they were just like, okay, we got to look at things a little bit differently, because they knew that I was coming with something, a different flavor that they may not be ready to handle with the kick that I was gonna drop.
I'm a huge fan of Muay Thai. Huge fan.
Yeah, I love Muay Thai.
What would you rate it, Drew?
Top level, top score, number 10.
Right up
10,
there with
10,
Kung
10,
Fu.
Yeah,
right?
It is right there. Because you take Thai and Kung Fu, and you can do a lot of things.
Cool.
All right, let's keep it moving. What else we got next? Right on 7. Right, Muay Thai.
Okay,
Jiu-Jitsu. So we were talking about this a little bit with judo. Very similar. Where
There's
you
a
at
lot
with
of similar
jiu-jitsu?
things.
Shout to Steve Cadenas. I know Rocky's a big jiu-jitsu master, 3rd degree black belt.
He's very good.
Where you at with jiu-jitsu, bro?
This is what I gotta say about jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is very good. Everyone should learn it. My biggest regret and mistake was that I didn't spend enough time with it because I wasn't a grappling guy at the time when I was younger.
Right.
When I did have opportunities to really look at it and learn it, I didn't really do it. When I did get an opportunity to kind of mess with it a little bit, like that's when I started to learn some things about it. It is interesting because if you know the ground fighting game, once you're like when you're in a class and you're working with people that are really good with ground fighting, like I remember walking in as a white belt just trying out with through a friend of mine, and they put me with like I think she was, what was she, 13, 12? And she freaking spider crawled on me and something weird and put these legs around me and crushed the life out of me.
Yeah.
And I was a grown man. And she was just like, I'm going to squeeze you. I'm going to squeeze you. I was like, what? And then it ran up at me and freaking squeezed the life out of me. And I was like, oh my gosh, get this 12-year-old kid off me. You know, I'm like, get her off me.
Yeah,
you know?
the moment I see someone trying to grapple me or tune, if I see anybody rooted in jujitsu or judo, like I said, I'm ready to catch you in that fly trap. I'm dropping elbows, knees. You know what I mean? I'm reverting to the nasty stuff because I can't let you get a hold of me by any means, shape, or form. The moment you get me on the ground, I'm done. So
yeah, guys that are really good at grappling. There's a style that's not on here. I'm just going to briefly touch on it. It's called catches can wrestling, and it is a shooter grappling wrestling weird sport. You know who Bret the Hitman Hart is, Rican?
of course.
Okay, his dad, Stu Hart, was one of the finest catches can wrestlers in that whole grappling game. He was one of the best guys. I mean, even as an old man, like I'm talking like Stu Hart was like old, like he moved, like he slid across the floor. He was, old, and he would go down. It was called the dungeon where, the Hart family learned and where people trained. They were training in the dungeon, in the Hart house. And, he'd get these big, bodybuilder guys, and he would go down to gyms, Stu would, in old age. And he would find like these big bodybuilder guys. And he'd walk up to him and be like, hey, because he talked like that. He was like, hey, you got those big arms and stuff. Yeah. He was like, I bet you could, teach me a few things about like, some fighting and some wrestling and stuff, right? And they look at him and be like, old man, I'd kill you. He's like, oh yeah, Tiger, come on. Yeah. I want to see what you got. Like, you think you can kill me? Like, come on down to the dungeon. And he would invite him down to the gym, and they'd be like, oh, okay. Especially they didn't know who he was. And the next thing they'd be like, all right, man, I usually do something like this. And Stu, boom, that old shuffling old man like this movement would change. And next thing you know, he'd have somebody in a hold. He'd have like their ear. He'd hook them in the mouth. He'd have them leaned over. And they'd be screaming for mercy and for life. And he got guys so good, they would literally crap in their pants. I'm not kidding. And they'd pee on themselves. He put them in holds like that. And I've got video of him like holding people like, you see this right here? I put my arm right here. I put it right here. And you see, and his eyes, and the guy's turning bloodshot red and screaming. And he would hold him and he'd be like, and you put it right here. And you see right here, like it's going to make the eyes pop out and it busts the vessels in their eyes, and then it cut him out the breathing right here.
He was like in their damn geese, Drew. That's crazy.
Yeah, he was a bad dude.
Talk about the Gracies too. I mean, jiu-jitsu.
You can't talk about jiu-jitsu without talking about the Gracies and the Machados. Royce Gracie is probably the most famous. Was he the best out of the Gracies? I would say Hickson was the best. Now, if you guys ever see the Incredible Hulk movie with Edward Norton, he's doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the beginning. That's Hickson Gracie that he's working with. Okay. Right. Hickson was the best one, but the UFC could not control Hickson. They had a better time doing business and working with Royce than they did with Hickson, because Hickson was he was a prime fighter. You weren't going to tell him what to do, and he knew what he needed to do to be great, and they really didn't want to work with that. And Royce was a little bit more cooperative. So they used Royce, and Royce is a top level too, but Hickson was really the warrior and the destroyer out of that group. Right. The only thing that ever stopped the Gracies was a guy in Japan named Kazushi Sakuraba. And Kazushi Sakuraba was known as the Gracie Killer for a long time. And I know a lot of the younger Gracies, you know, in modern day challenged him and kind of defeated him and things like, because he was older. I mean, he was a lot older at that time. But if they fought, here's what I'm going to say. If they fought Kazushi Sakuraba in his heyday, with the game like it is now, I think it'd be a different story. Kazushi Sakuraba was known for being a killer for a reason. And that was the only thing that stood in the Gracie's way. And the other thing that stood in Royce's way was a guy we all know by the world's most dangerous man. Do you know who the world's most dangerous man is, Rican? Laura probably doesn't know, but who is known as the world's most dangerous man in UFC? Well, he is. But there was another guy that was known as that, who wrestled in WWF, who was known as the world's most dangerous man in the 90s.
Mark Calloway?
No, Mark Calloway's the Undertaker. No, Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock, you know who he is?
Oh, okay.
Regan, Ken Shamrock.
I remember him. I remember
was the
Shamrock.
first UFC big champion, and he was known for the Lion's Den. He was a beast of a fighter in his heyday. And Royce Gracie and him had the biggest rival because he could grapple, he could stand fight, he had boxing skills, he hit like a truck.
I think they had crews, didn't they, back in the day with Tito Ortiz and all of them? That was that era when they were on Ultimate Fighter and stuff.
They were. The thing about the Tito run was by that time, Shamrock had gotten older and he could not fight young fighters and keep up with their stamina anymore. He had lost his edge. So when people are like, oh man, Shamrock, he's not good and all this stuff, it's like, no, Shamrock is. It's just that time has gone on. He's not the young, you know, Shamrock that was fighting in the dojos of Japan, training, doing the high level stuff or fighting Boss Rutan at Pancrase fights. You know what Boss Rutan is? Boss Rutan is another legend. It's super, super good guy. But Ken Shamrock got him. And if you see this fight between Boss Rutan and Ken Shamrock, it is like a fight of a fight. It is a gladiator fight like no other between those guys.
So where's your ranking, Drew? Let's round third on jiu-jitsu. Where's your ranking?
Okay. Jiu-jitsu. I would give it top level 10, top level art. It is very necessary.
Top 5.
You need to spend some time.
Who's one next?
Kendo.
Okay. I did do
blade training, right?
I did do some kendo. Okay. Kendo's an interesting one to put on here because kendo is really, what you would consider to be like samurai katana combat, using katanas and fighting. It's interesting they put it on here. It is obviously an art, but usually in a martial art list, you're dealing with no weapons. This is a weapon art,
right?
Yes, there's techniques that are similar to, Aikido and things to kind of that you can use. Yes, but it's really built on using katanas, on really getting efficient with, using katanas, wakizashis, things like that. And a samurai
it's
style
basically
art.
Fencing, right? I mean, is that what you would consider
you could say it's Japanese fencing? You could say it's Japanese swordplay, Japanese fencing. I don't want to use fencing too much in there because when you fence, the style's completely different on how you move and the finesse and different things. How you sword fights completely different because I always tell people when you look at a lot of Japanese sword fighting arts, you have to think of the katana is like a giant razor blade, right? And so all their moves are built from fully turning and really kind of cranking and letting that go like one slice. Like traditional combat was like slicing. When people fought, it was like a lot of slicing. It wasn't like fencing where, you kind of duel it out like in that way. It was like
This thing's cutting through
open
everything.
spot, open hit, and you release everything you had in one swipe, and you would cut, like, a head would come off, a hand would come off, a leg would come off. That's what they did. And that's why their swords were so sharp, because they're giant razor blades. They're not made for a lot of like sword play per se, because they're folded in their single blade, like a double-edged sword, like something Conan would have. Double-edged sword is meant for blunt hits and, hitting things, really doing that. That razor blade with the katana is meant just for cutting. It's meant for cutting.
That's a good point.
It's meant just to, decapitate, cut in half, and that's why, like, if you watch traditional, they don't really hit swords a lot. They really try to aim for open areas. They do hit swords, but it's really meant for open, if you leave yourself open. So if I swipe down and I miss and I'm open here, I better move very quickly, because that guy's going to come in and get my open spot and then definitely, take me apart, cut me, literally.
Yeah, same with the kicking. Like I was saying with Taekwondo, you commit to your kicks and it leaves you open if you don't connect. Same with the blade swipes, these big old swipes and slices. If you don't connect, you leave yourself open. So
you have to be very fast, and people can combat it. Guys that are really good, Miyamoto Musashi was known, in the Book of Five Rings for being efficient, and he could take like a boakin, which is a wooden katana, and he fought off like so many warriors that attacked him, with it, because he was really efficient in understanding and learning. So I do know that side of it too, because there's like two sides, and people are like, well, there is sword play. Yes, there is. Absolutely. But it's very different. You start understanding it. There's a different way that you approach combat in kendo, compared to other sword fighting arts. Each sword fighting art brings something different to the table, and each sword has a different way that it's used. Some people, like in Rome, they had a lot of the single, they had the double-edged blade that fit in like one hand, like they fought like that. You had more of the broadsword or the claymore, that has a longer handle and it's meant for two hands, stuff like that. Katana is meant for two hands, and each combat is going to be different. But kendo, I give it a top level because it's a very necessary sword fighting art. If you're going to do anything with swords, I tell people you have to learn everything you can. Kendo, you learn from the Japanese side of things. I'd say, broadsword, more European, fencing is more European. There's different levels. So to be more well-rounded, like we were talking about Highlander one time, Duncan and Connor McLeod learned all the different levels of sword fighting, from fencing to broadsword to using katanas, spending time in different countries, learning how they use blades in different ways and different style of blades to use. And katanas are made to be lighter so that obviously, so you're quicker. That's why they're made the way that they are. So you be very quick with them, very accurate, and they're very sharp. So they're quick and they're super sharp. The sharper the sword, the better the cut's going to be, and your opponent may not even know that they're cut sometimes, because it's that sharp. If the blade is right. So
you definitely got to learn how to control that power. So kendo's important.
Oh yeah, it's a very important
part of that.
What's your rating on kendo?
I love kendo. I've always loved kendo. I was always a big sword.
It looks like a lot of fun too.
It is a lot of fun, but I'm going to tell you right now, I've been hit in the face, and it definitely made you think if you wanted to continue. That's for sure, without a guard.
Well, let's this one's my favorite. One of my favorite. We've been talking about it. The next one, Krav Maga.
Kendo, I give it a top 10. Krav Maga. Okay, the start everybody talks about.
Yeah, Krav Maga. I feel like this one's getting a lot of steam.
A lot of hype. Commandos really pride themselves on that. The Navy SEALs learn it. All special forces, special operations learn Krav Maga. Krav Maga, of course, originated in Israel. You know, Israeli commandos are really known for that. It is a very brutal art. You know, Russia has what they call Sistema, which is, you know, it's kind of more the Russian take on it. So there's different levels of things that are like Krav Maga, and, you know, Commando Krav Maga, which OG is an expert in and taught Commando Krav Maga at a heavy level. It is meant for fast ending, maiming, and killing people, you know, very quick. It's very quick, very few moves, very fast stuff, applied in a certain way, very quickly. Get in, get out, kill, maim, walk away. You know, kind of a thing. That's what it's used for. You know, it's used to show you how to disarm guns, disarm knives, you know, do that sort of thing with it. Now, disclaimer, everybody. When it comes to a gun, especially like something like a handgun that, you know, people really have gripped up pretty nice in the hand, is very hard. You really, 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 really have to train to get that really good down. And even with that, a lot of factors come into situations like that. With knives, most people that get an altercation with knives automatically get cut, you know.
Yeah,
because
try to
knives
run
are,
away.
they're tricky. They're very tricky. I know people say, well, I really train. I said, yeah. And I'm not telling you not to train. Keep training, keep training, keep training. Just be aware when you're in a situation like that, it becomes real life. Things get crazy. And things can happen, you know. It's not easy. It's not easy to mess with the knife and mess with the gun. Okay. Really train, really work hard at it. And even if you come up on top, you're very fortunate and you're very lucky. I always tell people that.
I love how efficient Krav Maga is. Like, my favorite Krav Maga move is the kneecap kick. Like, anytime you try to attack and the angle's right, there's a Krav Maga kick where they use the flat. It's like a flat foot, quick front side kick to the side of your kneecaps, and they push down. A lot of them kick and hold. I like the takedowns. I like the instant breaks. I like ending the fight before it can excel. That part of Krav Maga I really do find fascinating when I watch the demonstration. So, excuse me. Krav Maga is definitely brutal. It's definitely brutal. I don't want to say, you know, I do enjoy that aspect of it, because to me, that's the most closest to real life fighting, is when you see Krav Maga, because it's like that person's trying to kill you, hurt you, do stuff to you that you do not want them to get a hold of you. So Krav Maga is, you got that opportunity for that one move to take them out of commission and the fight's over, to me. So
yeah, it's
where you putting
art.
this, Ski?
I give it top level 10. I'm not going to complain about that. I also say that make sure if you do decide to do that, I would say make sure you spend some time with other martial arts to at least get adjusted to some things before you do it, is what I would say. And then that way, when you do it, you're used to certain things, because they're going to like yell at you and put guns in your face and knives in front of you and like make you demand that you get that gun and that knife. Right.
Yeah.
So you need to kind of like get your body adjusted before you start doing it. Because if you don't have any clue or any idea about anything and you walk in that class, you may get a little bit of a rude awakening, you know,
Right.
because they try to get the idea is they're trying to get your natural reaction, you know. So if your natural reaction, if your adrenaline's up and something bad's going to happen, if your natural reaction is to run, they're going to show you like how not to run exactly, like to actually stand and defend yourself and not run, or to freeze, right? Or to use something that may not be that good for you to put in there to fight against somebody like that, you know.
Right.
So they try to take away all those weaknesses and things and then make you strong, and then have a natural reaction to when somebody does do something crazy, you know what to do. Like immediately you move into action, you do it quick, efficiently, and you live and you survive and everybody's safe around you, kind of a thing. Like in order to do that, you have to be ready to stand and fight and move quickly. And you cannot freeze up or be afraid. So like that was the problem, like with a lot of martial arts people, was in class, they're boom, 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 right? But then when a different situation came up or a real fight on the street, sometimes those people would freeze. I've seen it.
Yeah.
You know, I froze my first time because I wasn't used to it. You know, I was used to like just sparring and doing things with people. So I had to step out of it where like I won't freeze, you see. And that's the problem, if I could say in general, that a lot of martial arts do have, is like when people get in some altercations, they freeze or they use the wrong thing or approach it the wrong way or forget something, you know? So that's the problem, is like you have to be able to react to that stuff naturally and do it in the most efficient way, no matter if it's rain, sleet, or snow, or else you got a problem. And if you can't do that with any martial art that you do, you got a problem. So that's the thing about it. You do have to understand that if you use it in that way. Because, you know, there's guys, you know, I grew up in the time where a lot of guys, you know, wanted to test out their martial arts all the time, you know, that sort of thing like that. I grew up around a lot of people like that, where everybody was sparring. Everybody wanted to test everything out, right?
Oh, yeah, pissing contests.
Yeah, and, you know, if you run into some guy on the street, you know, of course, there was those idiots who was like, yeah, I'm going to step to that dude. A dude busts out a knife and, you know, get you, you know, or pulls out a 45 and shoots you, you know, like you weren't ready for that.
Yeah.
So you have to be wise. You know, there was a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy that I don't think he had experience with guns, you know, at all. And so he tried to like get a guy on a subway and the guy just shot him in the head and killed him. Crazy. You know, it was just like that. So you have to know how to deal with it.
Krav Maga feels like. It feels very militarized. It's military.
It is. It came from Israeli commandos. Yeah. It's what special forces uses. It's what commandos. It's what they use. You know, so everybody does it.
So what's your rating?
Oh, it's top level 10. It's top level 10 all the way. You know,
that's the style for killers, basically.
Nice. What's the
all right? Last but not least, probably my least favorite.
What, capoeira?
Right. Pretty much. Now this one, capoeira. This one to me is the distracting style. This is the style that they want you to do. He's gonna basically do all this crazy shit to get you distracted, and the kicks and the punches are gonna come from a whole different direction. You don't know where it's coming from. It's to disorient your opponent and trick them into your attacks and bait them and switch them. So I don't like the efficiency of this style. It's very flashy. I'm just not a fan. Drew, where you at with capoeira?
I've always had a soft spot for it. You know, it was invented by slaves in Brazil, and they would use it in a dance form so that the slave masters would not see what they were doing, was the story of origin that we all got. Okay.
Interesting.
And so that's where it came from. You do stuff from the jogo, you know, which starts the game for you to start the dance, you know, and then you have the berimbau, you know, to make the music, which is kind of like a weird kind of violin. And, you know, people would use, you know, the dance, and then, you know, a lot of what you could see as gymnastics, you know, a lot of level gymnastics stuff with a weird fighting art. Now there's a guy, gosh, what's his name? That Eddie Gordo was based on from Tekken, the actual guy. Lateef Crowder. So Lateef Crowder is the guy you see in The Protector that does capoeira. You see him with the braids and stuff.
Yeah.
That guy, he did a kick that was several miles per hour that was out of this world, because he could generate that much speed out of his body. So I'm a
And you
big
do
fan
see it
of
in
it.
a lot of movies. You see capoeira in movies because of how flashy it is.
Yeah,
There's always a
it's a
capoeira
really
guy not too far
beautiful,
away.
technical, acrobatic, parkour kind of art.
Breakdancing style.
Yeah, you can
You
do it. I knew a guy that did it, and I knew people that did it, but there was one guy, he was learning it, and he was really interested in it. And I knew another guy that was a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, and he just used to look at him and be like, "So you're gonna learn to dance today, right? Like that's what you're gonna do.
Mhm.
You're gonna learn how to dance." And he's, man. So people used to clown it because of because of that. But I think it's a very, if you can really learn it and get agile with that stuff and
Mhm.
develop it, at the right time to like use it with that speed. So if you could take your kicks, like think
Mhm.
about it, if you could take like a tie kick and somehow develop the speed of that of the capoeira speed with
Right.
the speed of a tie kick, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's the thing about it. If you could generate that power, that's really the thing. There's a lot of torque and power with that, where they're
Mhm.
sending like kicks that are really, really fast. You
And it
know,
disorients you. Like I said, fighting someone in capoeira, you could easily get distracted or disoriented and go to
you
block
can.
a kick or a punch in one direction, and they're already spinning the other way before you even can even react. So, um, I think it's funny that in the reboot or when we do our thing with the movie, there'll definitely be some capoeira representation because Walter with the hip hop keto, and it's kind of the dancing style. So it's like you got to have some capoeira in there if you're gonna
Yeah.
reference and pay homage to any type of hip hop or salsa keto thing we got going on. So as far
Yeah, and
as
you also have to
efficiency,
be careful too with it, because if you leave yourself too wide with that stuff,
right,
people
right,
will catch on to those patterns with the kicks and stuff. I've seen that.
right,
The next thing
right.
you know, like somebody's, as you're doing like a handstand, kick technique, or something, like I've seen people like where they've just, kick the hand, and then the next thing
Hmm.
you know, you're falling, landing on your head or something like that. And
Yeah,
now you're really
exactly.
in trouble because now you're dazed and you're on the floor.
So
Where are you
where
gonna
you
go?
ranking this one? This one's obviously a little lower on the list for me.
I,
So
I give it a 9.
okay.
I definitely would give it a 9. I'm very impressed with with that whole system. There's always been a soft spot. I thought only the strong with Mark Dacascos
Mhm.
and Paco Prieto, and I was blown away. That movie, that butterfly kick he did at the end, I was like, wow. So it'll always have a soft spot for me.
Right.
So I can never look down on it. It's always had a soft spot for me.
Well,
Oh,
I mean, we've covered 10. I mean, I just want to take this time to tell you guys that martial arts is an important part to me, for the
yeah.
movie, for the franchise,
Hey,
right?
Freakin', can
Hmm.
you drop that down so we can see it?
Yeah, sure. Sure. After let's get this out of here. I think Drew can drop it down.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I will
Yeah,
drop it
Drew,
down.
you just got to drop it down, bud. We finished the
Oh
countdown.
yeah, got it.
Like I said,
Yeah.
martial arts is an important pivotal part in the reboot, right, Laura? Because martial arts is going to keep the kids engaged in principles, in
Mm-hmm.
honor, respect, morals. You got the cultural side of it, right? And you got the
Mm-hmm.
physical side of it, and the mental side of it too. So
Mm-hmm.
martial arts is so many things that if Power Rangers really focuses on making the martial arts what it needs to be, it'll get kids interested in it again. It'll help save lives like it did back in the 90s and keep kids out of the street. I mean, it's a different time now. Kids don't really play outside. They're on their tablets, they're on the internet. So it's a whole different dynamic. Now we really got to make something that's really flashy for adults, great choreography. Power Rangers has to change. It has to evolve. The fighting has to really feel like some legit stuff, because the simple hayas and flying and basic stuff on the show is just not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. The top level choreographers and really intricate styles, um, ideal filmmaking, good CGI, green screens. Power Rangers is going to need the Marvel effect at some point to really, really be what it needs to be. The Zord sequences got to be Transformer-esque. It's got to really, really evolve and level up, Drew. And martial arts is an important part of all of that, if not the intricate, pivotal nucleus of it. So to me, people like Raina Vallingham, I've been watching, Michael Quench. I found this other guy, Daniel Lee. He was on The Brother's Son on Netflix, I found the other day. So there's a lot of great choreographers and fight people behind the scenes that can really make this movie and the Ninjetti movement what it needs to be. So this episode was important, and it was crucial for you guys to understand that KOD is a brand that is rooted in martial arts with Drew's background and what I'm trying to do with the movie. It's very important. So shout the OG, shout the Viking, big fight coming up on the 28th with Sugar Shane. Good luck to him. We're rooting for you, bud. Hopefully you can come back on the show and let us know, how the experience was. And, Rise of the Ninjetti, it's getting written out of as a trilogy right now. It's coming together beautifully. I put together some stuff with Drew today for this script you guys are going to love. So it was great to cover all the fighting styles and all the different type of things we'll be adding in the movie. It's important. It's important. I want the fighting to be top notch. So that's where I'm at with it, Drew. I appreciate all the intricate knowledge you got, man, and extensive knowledge.
You try. Oh, I got one thing, because I am wearing Kempo and I am representing Master Jeff Speakman, the perfect weapon. Do you have that clip?
Which one?
I sent you an email with the clip.
Let me try to find it while
there's a clip.
Okay, the perfect weapon. Yeah, let me
so Kempo karate was established where it kind of had a blend of a couple styles, and Ed Parker was probably the most famous teacher. He's the guy that taught Elvis Presley martial arts. And Ed Parker developed his way of Kempo and ended up teaching a very young Jeff Speakman. And the thing that was interesting, he was friends with Bruce Lee. So very much like Bruce Lee with Kempo, he, like JKD, he was always saying, evolve it, change it, evolve it, change it. There's disciples of it that refused to change it, like kept it a certain way, right? But like Jeff, he basically took the style and now he's developed Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with it to mix with the Kempo. And it's called Speakman 5.0. And so he's taken that as well as other things and incorporated, and he's been evolving it just like Master Parker wanted us to do. And it kind of excommunicated Jeff from a lot of people because they wanted to leave it what they consider to be pure, right? They didn't want to blend it. And Jeff was like, well, that's not going to work. Like we have to evolve it. And if you guys don't want to, that's cool, but I'm going to evolve it. So a lot of people didn't like that, but I respected Master Speakman. Not because, I got to, briefly study in one of his Kempo dojos at one time when I was young, because it was the way Bruce Lee and Ed Parker wanted things to go, and they were 100% right, because fighting was changing. The game was changing. MMA was here. UFC was here. And they knew that if they were going to have Kempo be in the game, Kempo had to evolve, and you had to take the good techniques that you could use and develop them with other stuff. And so Jeff was definitely a pioneer, and still is a pioneer, doing what he does. And he's one of the best in the business. Everyone that knows Jeff being the perfect weapon being that guy that he was. It just wasn't the name alone. And he also did, Kempo sticks, which people would also refer to as Eskrima sticks.
Right.
And he is one of the first guys that you saw really pride himself on taking that, and all the films that he did, he always had them with him. Or there was one, it was Street Night, where there were some long wrenches on the table, and he used those, and it was
Great.
beautiful. It was beautiful watching him do what he did.
Well, let's watch the clip. And then you close it out, Drew.
Sure.
Bring it up, and then let's see what we got.
This is from The Perfect Weapon, guys.
I wonder if you can help me. I'm looking for a guy who's good in Taekwondo. He's got a tattoo of a spider right here. You know him?
Yeah.
Great. I need to talk to him. Where is he?
Why don't you go home before you get hurt?
I wonder if I could kick your ass. No, not just you. All three of you.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Are you? I take on all three of you. You point me in the right direction. Deal?
Full contact. No protection.
No problem.
No.
This is my dance.
That's James Liu. He played Seijin Quan in Best.
Come on, white boy.
See what you got.
Okay. Nice. What year was this movie, Drew?
93. It came out in 93. Watch this. This is called Five
That wing
Swings.
tongue.
Yeah, he had the fastest hands.
Yeah.
Get up.
Okay. Bruce Lee move right there. That spinning backhand punch is crazy.
It is.
He's thrown that shit at least 3 or 4 times.
I know.
Where is he?
What a great scene.
Forget it. We had a deal. Talk.
So if you haven't seen this movie, it's definitely worth a watch. One of Drewski's recommendations. You can go and drop it down, bud.
All right. I love Master
Yeah,
Speed.
take us out. I mean, what do you think, Laura, about your crash course in martial arts today?
I still want to
KOD,
connect with him. It's been a long time, so I would love. I know I was talking to Viking about it. I was like, hey, if you ever come across him, let him know. I'd love, to talk with him.
Yeah, let's get him on the show, man.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you, Drew. That was very educational, and I
Yeah,
appreciate
lightning, all of that.
all your insight, and I definitely learned a lot, and I will be wanting to know more in the future. And yeah, so any last words?
Yeah, definitely. I'll pass it off to Drew and you take us out. But this was a good surprise episode. This one was actually produced by Lady Laura. She said, guys, I want to, mount up and learn about some martial arts. And we said, hey, I mean, we're pushing the brand that way anyway. So, and we're really going to dive in not only to martial arts, but to movies, maybe some music, some media, some other things. So, we're coming into our own as a crew, and I'm proud of that. I'm happy about that. Shout to everybody watching us, tuning in. Shout to our resilient family, everybody over there who messes with us. Reekin Ranger, Riser than Jetty, you already know. Lady Laura, Drew Danger, Knights of the Dragon. We're here. Reekin Ranger everywhere. Everything is updated from YouTube to Instagram to Facebook. I'm officially branded. So I want to salute you guys and everybody involved that we love, man. So, Drew, awesome episode, man. Take us out properly.
Mm.
Stay tuned, guys. We have only yet to begun the fight, So anything you need from Reekin, I'm always clocked in.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us on Knights of the Dragon. I'm so glad to be here. And, Rikin and Laura, you did such a great job. We're very proud of you. And we hope that you'll do it again and again and again. Give this old man a break since I'm the oldest one on the panel. I'm always glad to do it, but I'm always glad when you guys do it too, because you guys are just as important, even more important than I am, to be honest.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about that. I am wearing the Kempo symbol of Master Speakman, and this was what Elvis Presley wore and Master Ed Parker. So that's the importance of that, if you guys are wondering. So I'm very proud of that, very proud to wear it because I always want to represent those guys. I don't feel that they get enough love for what they did. I mean, come on, man. Ed Parker trained Elvis Presley. My goodness. I mean, what else do you need? So that's the thing about it, guys. We love martial arts here. We want to reach out to everybody and say martial arts can save lives, give discipline, and give people a whole nother perspective and help you find yourself. There's a saying that says, it's about you. What are you trying to accomplish? Sifu Alex Richter, I should say, the Kung Fu genius himself, he always says, like, when I train people, it's like, do you want to be the best competitor? Do you want to learn more about life? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to do that? He's like, each person's journey is different. And so what do you do martial arts for? What is your passion for it? What is the reason that you get up and breathe and do it? Like, you need to find out what your purpose is for it in order for it to really work with you. Once you understand your purpose and once you understand how it works in your life and how it can better your life, you're really on your way to doing some really cool things. So I just want everybody to sit, ponder, and think about that one. That's really something that I would say you have to consider when you do it. Find out what it's going to do for you and what you want it to do for you, And I always recommend people to really understand that. And there's a lot of things you can really learn to really sharpen out your life and make you responsible and disciplined in so many different ways you never even imagined, and give you the confidence that you need to go through life. That's a big one too. It helps you to be really confident in what you do. And it helps you to really understand a lot of things, your surroundings, how to stay tempered, when to do things, when not to. It's very important. So I'll be here all day talking about that because it's been a huge part of my life. So I'm not going to keep you guys any longer. I think we kept you guys long enough. Thank you for going on this magical adventure with us into the world of martial arts. If you have any questions, you know where to leave the comments. You know where to reach out, say hi. You can reach out to all of us, some of us, one of us, whichever one of us makes you comfortable. If all of us do, whatever. Please just let us know. Tell your friends, tell your family about us. we'd really appreciate that. We're really trying to do a lot of cool things. Shout out to your girl, Renee, and the awesome things we're doing over there and the opportunity to really do that. We really appreciate that. All right, guys. Now, as we leave, I always just want to say, since this is a martial arts section, remember that there is a master that exists inside each one of us. And if you embrace that inside of you, you will always be great. But with that being said, a master must always be a student. You must always be willing to learn. If you think you mastered everything in life and no one can ever teach you anything, you've already failed. That's in martial arts, and that's in every aspect of your life. So you can master some things, but you don't really, because you must always learn to be a student, and you must always be a student willing to learn. We all may achieve a black belt, but a black belt just means you go back to being a white belt again, because now you have to understand what it means to be a black belt, which means you have to be a student again. You see? So that's the thing about it. So always remember that, guys. Always be willing to learn. These guys that think they know everything and, oh, I don't, fools. We all have to learn. No one can go with living in life without learning and growing every day. The moment you stop learning is the moment life stops. So anyway.
Right. The student knows when to be a master, right? The student should know. And the master, and the student's ready, the master will appear, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And then there's a time when the master becomes the student.
Right. Exactly.
When your servant becomes your master, you never know. There are things that you can learn from all people and all things. So never be blind and ignorant to that. Always be willing to approach it, and never miss out on a good thing and a good opportunity to learn.
And the ninjetti shall rise, Drew.
That's right.
We shall rise, my friend. We shall never die. You know, so take us out.
All right. All right, guys. So what will happen next episode? Will Laura save the universe? Will Rican get his movie started? Will I stop getting old and falling on the floor? Who knows? We'll see. Same night time, same night channel. And we'll catch you guys next time.
Right.
Catch you guys later. Be good.
Later.